What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to part 2 of all 29 MLS teams' needs with 2 weeks left before the regular season starts. Yesterday, we posted the video of all 15 Eastern Conference teams, and today we're going to go ahead with the Western Conference. There's a lot here. Again, it could have been one long video, but we broke it into 2. I know, I'm a hero, whatever. So again, please read the comments. Let me know if this is kind of the format you guys liked, what other tweaks I can make, any other suggestions. I'm here to serve, whatever you guys want. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So anyway, we're going to dive in now to the 14 Western Conference teams. Let's see where all the roster builds are, the offseason that was, the offseason that is, and the offseason that will be. Austin FC. The name of the game right now is long-term building blocks. Rodolfo Borrell took over as sporting director last summer. He began kind of working over the team. Diego Fagundes was traded. And again, the lines that I got from sources this offseason was literally everybody on this roster is available who's not named Sebastian Driussi. I did an interview after the U20 World Cup, after the season to kind of highlight what Owen Wolff did. And Josh Wolff, I was pretty much trying to give him an easy question of, hey, is it going to be difficult, like one day, there's PSV who are interested in him. There's going to be, he's clearly kind of a player who's going to be in Europe one day. Is it going to be tough to, whatever, it's your son. How do you transfer your son? And he kind of said something to the effect, yeah, well, other MLS teams would want him to, whether it's he pretty much opened the door for, yeah, maybe I'll trade my son if that needs to happen. So that just goes to show everybody's available on this team, and what they need is long-term building blocks. They signed Diego Rubio. I really like that signing. I think he's going to fit well with Sebastian Driussi. Hopefully, for their sake, he'll be healthy. I hate their winger group. Emiliano Rigoni, I've been super critical of, and I'm going to continue. I just don't think he's that good. Hader O'Brien, he's fine. I just don't think he's very good either. I don't think he's a starting level player in this league, and particularly so with how Josh Wolff wants to play in possession. O'Brien's best qualities is his dynamism, pace, and ability to get chances, whether he scores or not. I don't love him in a possession-based attack, but again, the optimistic view is he can run in behind while Rigoni kind of tucks in and gets on the ball, and that at least provides balance. But again, we'll see what exactly happens with this team. They desperately need an anchor center back. They desperately need more fullbacks. They need a high-level winger. All of these things will take time. Again, this is a long-term play more so than a short-term. We'll see exactly what Austin FC looks like this season, but again, think more long-term in all of these decisions rather than short-term, and rather than kind of fine-tuning a roster that just needs one more piece or just needs this. No. This is a long-term build. This is a long-term plan. Rodolfo Borrell, don't rush into any decisions. My off-season darling, Colorado Rapids. I think that they've had the best off-season so far this winter. And I think they are more or less done as well. They've added Georgi Mihailovic on the club record deal. They re-signed Cole Bassett to a long-term deal. They brought in a defensive midfielder, Diak. They brought in Zach Steffen as a starting goalkeeper. They brought back Sam Vines as a starting left back. And they brought in Chris Armas as a head coach. All of these players outside of Diak were here at the very start of preseason. This team shouldn't worry about continuity because that can be built through preseason, even though there's so many new parts on a new team. They all fit well together. And I think the team's going to be much more straightforward than complicated than it was last year. They're going to play in transition. That's all set. The only real outgoing they need is Marko Ilic. They feel bad for him in that he was supposed to be a starting goalkeeper, and then the Zach Steffen deal was possible, so they went and did that. So I'm expecting them to continue exploring moves for Ilic, and we'll see what happens there. What they need to do is get data points on Rafael Nufaru, their DP forward, who's on loan until the summer. They need to get more data points on what does Kevin Cabral look in a team that plays transition and with these players. And what does Diak? Diak is on loan until the summer as well. Those are the 3 question marks. Those are the starters right now, but they need to have those data points and be ready to stick or twist in the summer, particularly with the 2 players who are on loan, because it's not long-term. They're not long-term deals. They don't need to be here. If they don't do well over the first half of the season, they can go back in the market and sign a new player. So again, particularly with Namahu, I think that he'll come good, right? His pedigree is strong enough. I don't really hold anything against him from last season. He had absolutely no service, particularly at the beginning when he was adapting to Robin Fraser's team, and they were struggling really, really bad. He looked a little bit better towards the last 2 games in the season as the team did in general. But we'll really see what Navajo is made of this season. And again, he needs to hit the ground running, or they don't need to trigger that purchase option. So we'll see how it goes. Again, I think this team is going to be very good and very competitive. I think that their floor is much, much higher than it was last season. Or I'm just falling in for the hype. We'll see. FC Dallas, they are mostly done as far as I'm concerned after a club record deal to sign Peter Musa from Benfica. It's a huge deal. I've talked to scouts. Obviously, Dallas love him, right? They signed him. They're super excited about him. I've talked to scouts around the league who were like, damn, like this guy's going to be awesome. I think that's a great signing by Dallas. Well done to them for putting up upwards of $10 million up front plus some add-ons. That was the big move. I'm glad that they made it. I can't wait to watch this team and see how they look. I think that they're going to play with a back three, and that's super exciting to have kind of Ferreira off of Musa. What I hope for the attack is a front three of Musa, Kamungo, and Ferreira. I'm not sure if that'll exactly happen or not, because I think Ferreira as a second forward behind Musa would be sweet too. But playing as kind of a 9.5, 10.5, whatever you want to call it, with Kamungo being somebody who can get in behind and create more space for Musa and Ferreira, there's just a lot to like about this team. Paul Arriola is super responsible. He can play as a wingback. Left wing back is a bit of a question mark because I don't know if Farfan gets forward well enough, but there is no obvious option. I really don't trust Kamungo playing as a wing back, but hey, maybe we'll see. We'll see if Andre Zanota has another move up his sleeve. But this is the most excited I've been about Dallas in a long time. Going into the offseason, it looked really bleak. Alan Velasco is going to be out for most of the season, probably at least half the season. And he was, Ferreira took a step back last year as playing as a number 9. I didn't know if they were going to go out and add a number 9 DP because they could have last year and they didn't. And now you look at the team, and there's a lot of room for optimism, a lot of room for excitement. So well done to FC Dallas this winter. Houston Dynamo, they need winger depth, particularly from the U22 initiative, because that's their biggest chip left to play. They don't have a ton of cap room. That's why they weren't in for Albert Elise, even on a TAM deal, unfortunately. Is it Sebas Ferreira comeback season? Man, I hope so. I'm not giving up my stock. I think that he's a good player, and I think he can fit in this team, and I'm looking forward to the redemption tour. As for elsewhere on this team, Coco Carrasquilla, they thought he might leave in the summer, and they thought for sure he was going to leave this winter. No offers came at the end of the summer transfer window or in the winter. So is he open to signing a new deal? Say, hey, Coco, man, we tried. We did what we could. We wanted to do right by you. We were ready to let you go, but nothing came in. How about this? Here's a new contract. You stay here. It's a fun team. You love it here. It's a good league. Just, would you rather be here or the Spanish second division, maybe? Would you rather be a star here? I don't know. That would be pretty tempting to me. Like, maybe they could do that. That'd be a lot of fun. Quinones is injured. They don't know how long at the moment, but Ben Olsen said it doesn't look good. That sucks. They definitely need to add another winger via the U22 initiative if that's a long-term injury. Usman Silla, who they drafted in, I believe, the second or third round, he's in with the team in preseason. I don't know if he's ready for MLS minutes or not, but that seems like a smart deal to get done if they're able to. And Brooklyn Reigns, I've heard a lot of good things about him this preseason with Hector Herrera injured. So we'll kind of see how they can kind of just survive and advance over the first month or two with Hector Herrera out and some other injuries. And we'll see. We'll hope that there's no regression. But again, just got to get ready to Hector Herrera's back and not to rush him back and risk another long-term injury. LAFC, things look a whole lot better today than it did, 10 days ago. They have officially signed David Martinez, a highly, highly rated Venezuelan 17-year-old. He's turning 18 this week or something like that. I don't know. I have his birthday in front of me. Sorry, sue me. They've also moved on a deal to sign Edward Atuesta on loan. At the time of recording, it's not been official, not been announced, but I reported that it's being finalized. I haven't heard anything to suggest it's not happening. They also signed a U22 initiative left back in Campos from Liga MX. This team looks a lot more complete than it did before. I'm a sucker. I'm a romantic. Man, I hope that they sign Carlos Vela, re-sign Carlos Vela, whatever it takes. I want to see him retire with this team. He's a club legend. He's done so much. I still think he's good enough to matter in this team. I think him playing as a false 9 or having the option to have him as a false 9 between Denny Buanga and Kiki Oliveira fits a whole lot. I think that would be really well. And again, the other forwards on this team is Tomas Angel, the son of Juan Pablo. He's 20. Nathan Ordaz, homegrown, another young player. Having Carlos Vela there and having the young players behind him that will be able to play a lot of minutes when he don't want him, he can't start 34 games, you don't want him to either, or he'll be burnt out by the playoffs. So look, I hope that they re-sign Carlos Vela. I understand that this is a romantic opinion rather than a cold, calculated brain decision that I know John Thornton and that front office will make. They will only re-sign him if they believe that the numbers are right and that he can help the team. But I don't care. I hope that they re-sign him. Outside of that, they need some depth at central midfield, left back, and goalkeeper. But these are a lot more small of issues than it was, again, a week and a half ago when they had, 14 or 16 players on a contract. So well done by LAFC. They said that they did the heavy lifting, and now just time for announcements, and they weren't lying. So well done by LAFC. The LA Galaxy, they have been busy this offseason. Will Kuntz was officially named general manager after joining the front office last year. Jovan Kirovski was let go. The club brought in a club record signing for young DP Gabriel Peck. He's currently with the Brazil U23s at the South American Olympic qualifiers. They are going to add another DP. For me, I think that the urgency is there for them to do it now. I've heard the argument of maybe that they don't need to. They could wait for a better deal in the summer or whatever. I disagree. I think that there is immense pressure on Greg Vanney. If they don't start strong out of the gate, he is going to be in big trouble for his job security. So do whatever they can to get either Joseph Pansdale or somebody else or another big winger over the line to really help this team get off to a good start, get the fans behind them. Everything else, you have Ricky Puig. If you have this player, you're going to be contender. Mark Delgado and Gaston Brugman is a really good central midfield duo. Maya Yoshida, I thought he was fine last year. Caceres, he's getting older. Mickey Yamine, he's another in prime player, a winning player. This team is ready to compete right now. They have to compete right now. If they come out of the gate slow, Greg Vanney is going to be under immense pressure, and his job is going to be in trouble. So it is imperative that they start fast, and the best way to start fast is use all of your resources. Use that third DP slot, and then figure it out later. If not, Diego Fagundes will be a good option to be a starter. But again, I think the best case scenario for this team is if a player like, particularly Joseph Pansdale, if they were able to get that over the line, his kind of profile, goal-scoring winger, somebody who's playing in behind to give more space to Ricky Puig in the underneath in the spaces would be best. Hopefully Dejan Joveljic if Dejan Joveljic is league average, he's going to score 15 goals this year in this attack. So I'm looking forward to the Galaxy. We'll see how it goes. One more thing would be whether they can get rid of Jonathan Bond to help free up some cap space, and whether or not you sign Ricky Puig to a new contract. Put all the rumors to bed, put whatever unhappiness, all that crap that comes out of Spain. You have a young DP in Gabriel Peck. You can re-sign Ricky Puig to a deal that exceeds what he's on right now, and you can still have all three of your U22 initiative slots. They also have one more U22 initiative slot that they can use, and I'm expecting them to use it. We'll see. Minnesota United, for all my jokes in the initial power rankings about them not having a coach, the good news, Reynoso showed up. The better news, best news is Reynoso. More good news, their sporting director showed up as well. And again, as much as the jokes that I made, I actually really like this roster. Like, Reynoso, Bongi Longe, Robin Lod, Timu Pukki. That makes a ton of sense together. I'm a big fan of Kervin Arriaga. He keeps getting hurt, unfortunately. Like, the back line is solid enough. They need a left back, and that's where we'll start here. They need to bring in another left back. But I really like this roster as a baseline. Like, I don't think that they're going to be that bad. It's just, who knows what the hell they're going to do with the coach, with the tactics. If they want to play a different style than what they've been doing under Adrian Heath, then they need to fit the style around Emmanuel Reynoso if they plan to have him long term. If they don't, if they come out playing transition, Reynoso's not going to fit in that, and then I think that'll tell you that his days might be numbered in Minnesota, which would be sad because when he shows up and when he's on, he's one of the best, most fun players in the league. But again, we'll see. I think that Sang-Bin Jeong, he can offer more. Let's see if he can bring consistency this year. But the good news is he's not slated to start. They don't need him. It would just be a bonus. Same thing with Caden Clark. Remember him? Made the $3 million move to RB Leipzig and his career kind of stalled out. He's the Minnesota boy, is here at Minnesota United. What does he have to offer? Can he restart his career? Again, there's a lot to like in this team. They could, again, use a bit better fullbacks, particularly on the left side. But there isn't a lot of holes outside of, not having a head coach, which is a bit of a problem, but we'll see. Portland Timbers, they still have some work to do. They are in the process of adding a DP number 9. That is a search and a short list that they've had for the offseason. They are looking to get that done before opening day. Whether or not the player is going to be ready to play opening day depends on the formalities of whatever deals they're finalizing. But a new DP number 9 is coming. Hopefully I'll have more news on that at some point in the near future. And hopefully the Timbers, in terms of having a deal finalized, that's first and foremost. They do have another DP spot open. It would have to be a young DP if the center forward isn't a young DP, so one of the two. I don't know if they're going to use it this winter. Maybe they hold that to the summer because there's not an obvious spot for a DP. Probably on the wing, right? But they still have Anthony and Dairon Asprilla to kind of choose for that spot. They could put Santi Moreno and Evander underneath the center forward and kind of put another center back on the field for Phil Neville. I could see them playing 3 at the back occasionally so that Mosquera and Bravo can play as wingbacks instead of fullbacks. I would like that look for them. But again, we shall see. An immediate need, I think, is left back depth, particularly with Bravo out for a couple months or 6 to 8 weeks, whatever it is. They really only have Eric Miller there. They could use another option. Again, maybe that leads to the back three to begin the season, and you put Espria or Anthony or Moreno or somebody as like a placeholder at left wing back and just play like a winger, right? And then the other immediate need is Ivicic. He's not with the first team. All parties are looking for an exit. They had a deal ready that it was contingent on another move happening at another club that didn't happen. So they just need to find an exit for Aljaz Ivicic and end this kind of bad relationship between player and club. But again, that's not important. They brought in Maxime Crépeau and Kamal Miller as far as their key additions so far this winter. Portland Timbers should be very good this season. Real Salt Lake. All they really have left to do is adding a DP number 10, 9.5, depending on how Pablo Mastroeni wants to play, whether it's a 4-2-3-1, as I have kind of listed here for the depth chart, or if it's a 4-4-2-ish like it was last year with, a player underneath Chicho Arango, and that's why it's a 9.5 more so than a 10. If they do add it as a 10, they want somebody who's going to be intelligent enough to interpret space and flash wide when Diego Luna comes inside. Or again, if they add a DP winger, then Luna can just start as a traditional number 10. But they view him more as that inverted left winger, free roll, whatever it is, with an overlapping left fullback and all the rest. This team is really strong. Chicho Arango is a talisman for a very good team. The central midfield pairing of Ruiz and Ojeda is strong. Wilson Palacio, I think, is going to be a very good player in this league, and he's currently the backup, which is the best way for a U22 initiative player to be, so that there's not expectations. And if he doesn't play well, he can go to the bench, right? I think that's a really strong pairing, really strong kind of group. They need to hit this final DP for me to know exactly where to place them in the Western Conference. If they really hit on this DP, they're one of the best teams in the West. They would be slightly below Seattle and LAFC, but they would have as a claim as anybody to be, best in the West in the regular season. So it's a really important signing for Real Salt Lake. I'm excited to see if they get it done and what they get done. San Jose Earthquakes, outside of selling Cade Cowell to Chivas in a $4 million deal, they've been pretty quiet. They are reportedly finalizing a deal to sign Pellegrino from Bodo Glimt. He's 33, but his goal-scoring record in Norway is outstanding. He can play. He's been a winger, but again, at his age, maybe he's a number 10 or a second forward, right? I think he could play on the wing or as that second forward. And where they see him is where they need to will interpret where they use their resources in attack. If he's a 10, then you add a winger. If they see him as a winger, then you add a 10, right? It's simple as that. And that attack on paper should be fine. As long as Christian Espinoza, I believe that what Christian Espinoza did last year is indicative of what he's going to do in the future, rather than, say, a player who just had a good year and he's going to regress to the mean. I think that was more what Christian Espinoza is like. Again, Jeremy Abobasi, he wasn't as good last year as he was in 22, but I think he's a strong, solid starting center forward in this league. The central midfield duo is good. Goalkeeper strong. They could add another center back, I believe. And again, this team could be solid. We'll see what happens with the young players. They'll be in the mix in the West. They won't be with kind of that top tier. But we'll see kind of what else that they have going on here towards, when we get closer to the start of the season and what additions come, because it's been slow on the incoming side. Seattle Sounders, I'll be honest, I don't got much here, right? Like, Pedro de la Vega was really their big addition, and Danny Musovski, I didn't see that coming. They signed him. Those are two really good signings. Musovski is listed as third on the depth chart here. I don't think that's particularly fair. I think he's going to get plenty of minutes because Morris can play in the left wing, and then Musovski can start. Rui Diaz is always injured, it seems, but we'll see. There's just a lot that can move around here, and Seattle have a really strong, really deep roster. What do they do with Javier Arriaga? I think it's time for a trade, man. They brought in Nathan, they brought in John Bell, so they have two backup center backs who are proven in this league. You could get somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million in allocation for Javier Arriaga, I believe. I think time is now to make that trade, and we'll see what Craig Weibel does. Outside of that, Reed Baker Whiting, I'm excited to see what he might look like in 2024, how many minutes he can win. Again, Pedro de la Vega, whether he's the best part about this signing is that they have three options at left wing: De La Vega, Chu, and Jordan Morris. So if he doesn't adapt well immediately, they don't need to keep playing him through difficult times. They have options. This is what a team at the top of a conference should be, and should have. They can they go too deep, at least at many of the positions. And they have a lot of elite players, Yaimar, Reagan was elite last year. João Paulo, I talk about him all the time. Christian Roldan, all these players, like, they are elite at several positions. This is one of the best teams in the league. Simple as. Sporting Kansas City, they have also been quiet. They have been in the sweepstakes for Kellen Acosta. They have an open DP spot that they have not used yet. For me, that's the biggest need for them. What they want to do with that DP spot, I would say a 10 or, because I think Eric Tommy can play on the wing as well. Just somebody like that who can fit into the attack and help, because up top they have Willie Agata behind Alan Polito for injury insurance. They have some wingers. Again, Eric Tommy can play on the wing if they need him to. So they're pretty fluid in the attack. So just adding another high-level player, another chance creator, I think is what they should do with that DP spot. Another difficult one, because Logan Ndembe, as he was really coming on last year, tore his ACL in the playoffs, so he's out most, if not all, of the season. Is Leopold, is he the answer at left back? They thought he was going to be last year, and then he didn't play all that much. Injuries, whatever it is. They got to figure out pretty quickly if he's the answer. Do they have enough depth at center back? Not many teams do, but, Fontas is a year older. Danny Rosero, he's back. We'll see what all that looks like, but I'm not entirely sure what the cap situation looks like. Maybe they placehold that final DP spot to save allocation money and bring in a center back or a left back, right? I'm not entirely sure. They can go in a couple different directions. I'm very curious to see where SKC goes from here. St. Louis City, another team that's been kind of working in silence this winter. Nico Gioacchini is off to Como in a deal worth $2 million with add-ons that could bring that fee to $4 million. They've added a couple fullbacks, and that is very key for this team. They have room for a key addition, whether it's a DP because of a transfer fee or a TAM player, whatever it is. Where they're going to use it, I'm not sure. They don't, it's like when they're talking to intermediaries or talking to agents about potential players, it's like, oh, we need a forward, but not really a forward, or we need a winger who's not really a winger, right? Like, that's what we kind of look for with this team just because of the way that they play. I could see them going with a 9.5 type of player, somebody who's a forward, but not in the mold of Klaus or Sam Adeniran. I could see them going with a winger who's more of like an inside forward, right? Like, they can go in a few different directions. Maybe a number 10, but probably not, because a pressing team doesn't use a traditional chance creator. And I think Edward Loven could play in that spot if they go with one up top and they put, Durkin and Blum, or Durkin and Vasilev, or Vasilev and Blum as kind of a double pivot behind Loven to let him get forward more. I think that they still need another punch in the attack, and they have the space to do it. Let's see if they do it. But outside of that, like, their fullback additions, I think, are going to be very, very useful for this team this year. And again, I know that they outperformed last year, but I don't want to make that seem like a negative. Like, if they don't finish first in the West, it's not a huge disappointment, and that doesn't take anything away from last year. They outperformed their expected goals, but good on them for finishing well and coming up in big moments defensively. It's not going to be necessarily repeatable to that extent, but I think this team's going to be solid again this year. Last but not least, the Vancouver Whitecaps, and I will say the next time I do this, I will go in reverse alphabetical order. So Vancouver, Toronto, and St. Louis start at the top rather than at the bottom here. So thank you all to either the fans of these teams who have jumped around to come, or you sickos out there. If anybody has stayed this whole time, you're a legend, and I thank you. I appreciate you. Vancouver Whitecaps. What they need is a right wing back. That's it right now, really. As long as Sam Adekugbe is healthy at left wing back. Everywhere else on this team, they have a lot of really good center back depth. That I didn't see that as a need whatsoever this winter, but they went out and added 2 center backs. So well done, Axel Schuster, the front office, Benny Sortini. Right wing back, they wanted to bring back Richie Larea. That's not happening. It's unfortunate. Right now, I think Ryan Raposo would be the starter, but Javane Brown might be. But like, Javane Brown is more of a right center back than a wing back for me. So they need to add, like, Fafa Picault, I like a lot in this spot. I don't know how Fafa Picault feels about that and whether or not that would work, but I would love to see them try it. We'll see kind of what that looks like at the beginning of the season, but whatever assets they have left, they should be focusing on adding a right wing back, because other than that, this team is set. Ryan Gold signed a new contract. Brian White, Gold, and Vite, that's a phenomenal maybe is probably a little bit too strong, but that's a really strong front three. This team has, a collective ethos. The idea is to play above the sum of the parts. So that's what they got to do this year. They got to take another step forward. They should be exciting. And again, I keep on saying it, the Western Conference is wide open. Why not the Whitecaps, right? Why not?